I'll start.
Ma, ma.
Lily.
No,
Okay.
I'm Patrick. Okay, don't put that in there.
Hello. Welcome back to the No Fictional Friends with your hosts, Sophia
Oh,
and
and Nicole.
thanks for tuning in. A little recap last week. We talked a little bit about our romance spicy takes, and later on in the episode, we are going to bring in Nicole's med school friend, Rabia, who we are designating as our romance expert. She reads a lot of romance, knows a lot of different authors, and get a little bit of her perspective. Let's introduce our cocktails or drinks for this episode. What are you drinking today, Nicole?
To be honest, okay, I had a whole plan for my book cocktail this
Mhm.
week
Mhm.
because I am literally so close to finishing the sequel to The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. The sequel's called The First Time I Saw Him.
Mhm.
It's really good. The audiobook narrators are terrible. No offense if they ever happen to come across this podcast, but you sound like a robot and it's really distracting. So I had to switch to the book, like, because I could not do it. So I'm just reading it now. But the book itself is really good. And so I wanted to do um it's called like The Last Word. Have you heard of that pod or not podcast? What am I saying? Have you heard of that cocktail before, The Last Word?
No, I have not.
So it has it's one of my favorite cocktails. Pause while I pull it up. It, according to Google, is a classic Prohibition era cocktail made with equal parts gin, green chartreuse, a maraschino liqueur, and fresh lime juice, shaken and served. And
Mm.
sometimes it's also done with mezcal because there's one place here in Atlanta that does it like that, and I love it. However, I decided I was going to go to the liquor store and try and find green chartreuse, and I could not find green chartreuse anywhere. And here's the reason why. It's because did you know that green chartreuse is made by monks in a monastery in like Nepal?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So they only make a certain amount of it. Um, and it's really hard to find and you have to like buy it in bulk. Um, it's
Oh,
a
okay.
French herbal liqueur produced by Carthusian monks using a secret recipe of 130 herbs, plants, and botanicals.
Interesting.
Um, it's oh sorry, it's produced in France. It's not Nepalese monks.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you said
French monks.
chartreuse, I was like, I think that might be France, but
Chartreuse does not sound like a Nepal kind of word.
yeah.
But anyway, so I was going to make the last word because I thought, the last thing he told me, the last word, get it? But I'm just doing wine instead because after going to
Yes,
two liquor stores and not finding green chartreuse,
not
I
finding
gave
it.
up.
I'm also doing wine, but I'm doing white wine because I'm poor.
Because I'm poor.
I actually kind of forgot we were doing the drinks, and when you texted me, I was like, I only have white wine, so that's what we're gonna get today.
And worked out. Wine it is.
But yeah,
Cheers.
and then cheers. Kind of circling a little bit back right now. Let's do a little updates on the books that we are reading and or finished since the last episode. I'm currently reading Project Hail Mary, which I like. I really enjoy that book, which
Was it
is
worth the multi-month wait?
it was worth the multi-month wait. So I've been excited about that since I've gotten an e-reader and have been using Libby a lot. I'm not against waiting for some of the books that I've wanted to read, but maybe didn't want to purchase. So that's been kind of nice. But at work, I've re-listened to the Selection series, and I got through all of that this past week.
Oh my God, in one
Um,
week.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it's fun. It was a good nostalgia read. I think there was a lot of like the like lack of communication trope, the emotional immaturity of like not telling someone how you feel that was irking me a lot, and then it kind of ends in a weird way. But besides that, I had fun. It was a fun little like nostalgia. I was like, I get why I really liked this when I was a teenager. So,
It's a good review to have as an adult. Like
yeah.
still it keeps up with the enjoyment you had when you were younger.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fairy tale, basically. And I was like, fairy tales are fun.
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna get. They're gonna end up together. Yay, happy.
I was surprised you liked it because throughout the week you were texting me these like long paragraph messages like, it is so ridiculous. The female main character said this, and the male
Oh,
main character said this, and that was stupid. I was like,
well, yeah, but
whoa.
I think it's more of a reflection of like I probably would have said the same things when I was, I think the main character's 16 or like 17
Mm.
years old, maybe,
I
and
was a
like the
menace to
guy's
society at
19.
16, so
Yeah, and so I was like, honestly, I probably connected with that. So I have to have some perspective, right? There's things that were annoying, but that's good. And so you
well,
finished your book, or you're on the verge of finishing.
yeah, so I finished The Correspondent last week. I think I gave it 3.25 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I feel like I was expecting more based on how much other people loved it.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it was because the author was older that it was harder for me to relate to. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't do it for me.
That's
I
fair.
thought I will say like objectively I thought the audiobook was excellent. It was I half read or I would say I did like 75% audiobook, 25% Kindle or ebook reading and I I thought the audiobook narrator was excellent. She did such a great job.
Hmm, that's
And they
good.
had some other cast members as well who did like the male voices, which I did appreciate because a woman doing a male's voice always freaks me out. And I've gotten
That
used to it, but my God.
that was the thing that made me stop listening to the audiobook versions of Game of Thrones because it's a male, like an older guy, clearly an older guy that's like doing it, and then he does like Sansa's voice, and he's like just like goes really high pitch, and I'm like, I can't listen to
I
this.
can't. It takes me out.
Yeah.
But I that made me think of so Bridgerton does the same. It's this like similar to Julie Andrews who narrates the show. The woman who
Mm,
narrates the audiobooks is this like posh older English woman. And when she does the male voices, it takes me out. It's like, oh, they could not find a guy to do this
yeah.
because it's like an old woman.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well, is it, or is it just a person that does voice acting? Because I have a family, or not a family friend, but like I know a friend whose mom did voice acting, and
That'd
she
be
could
so
do like
fun.
that like kind of like what you when you think of like a witch voice or
Mm,
like the Julie Andrews narrating thing,
love my Julie
and she can do
Andrews.
it, so it's kind of cool.
Are you a Bridgerton watcher?
I have been watching Bridgerton. I, for a long time, did not watch it because I wasn't super interested. But when the third one came out, I decided I would just watch all of them at once. And so I did that, and I did really enjoy it. And I am watching the fourth season. I have not gotten through the second half, so no
No
spoilers, please,
spoilers.
if you
Okay.
have.
All I'll
Um,
say is I think this is the best season so far.
okay, I discussed with another friend about this as well, and
You have
they
other friends.
agreed. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
fake news.
Um, and it's like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh wow, this is peak cinema, but it's fun and I like the little like aesthetic that we're getting.
Yeah. The comedic
And this is
relief.
just Cinderella, a retelling of Cinderella, and the
Yeah.
retelling. I mean, Cinderella is a fun story, basically. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this. I like this one a lot better than last season, the third
Mm.
season. I was excited to hear about Penelope's side, but I think because they did it so early, it has kind of ruined some aspects of like the future seasons.
Yeah.
of her, everyone knowing that she's Lady Whistledown. I wish they kind of delayed it a little bit longer.
Well, that brings me to a point about so this season is the first one where I have now read all of the books, the Bridgerton books,
Mm,
all 8 of the main siblings' books. Um, and this is the first season I've watched after having read the books. So I watched the first 3 seasons and then read all of the books. And then now this new season has come out. So I knew the plot before this season even came out.
yeah,
Um, I first of all, I think they did a very good job keeping for the most part to the book plot. Um, one thing I will say that's different in the books is that Lady Whistledown is not found out for many years. It's not in
yeah,
some, yeah, it's not done like that at all. And so I agree that it changes the dynamic of the show 100%. And
yeah.
the
I
other
think that was a
thing,
poor choice for the show. I think that was a bad choice for the show.
but how, so first of all, they went out of order, kind of.
Well, I know
So
they went out of
no, they
order,
didn't.
right? Because
No, they didn't. You're
well,
right.
Daphne is the first one, right? No matter
So it
what.
was Daphne, Antony, and then it was Colin,
Yeah.
and then it was Benedict, right? No, I think I'm wrong. I think they
I think
swapped.
it goes, I thought the only one out of order was Daphne's book.
No, that was the first, always the first book.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought that was always the first one, but then besides that, all the characters went based off of age. So like first, second, third.
Uh, nope. So it was Daphne's book first, The Duke and I, and then it was Antony's book, which was The Viscount Who Loved Me, and then it was Benedict's book,
Yeah, that's what I had thought.
and then it was Colin's book. So
Yeah.
they swapped seasons 3 and 4. And I'm
Yeah.
like, did they do it just because the drama and suspense that was being built in the first couple seasons with her secret was coming to a head? Or could it not have just waited one more season, you know?
Yeah, I think it could have waited another season. I think the problem, I feel like they should have just kept the chronology of the books because I didn't think there was really a reason to switch them. Aside from like maybe that Penelope was a character that people liked a lot, and so then they wanted to like focus on her a little bit more. And I do get that, but I do think they could have done the revelation of Lady Whistledown down in a different way. Maybe the whole town doesn't need to know. Like maybe it could have been Colin figured out, and then they had their whole tension, and then just moved on from that.
Yeah.
And then she
Also,
could have been kept secret.
yeah, I don't know why they couldn't just wait another season because I also feel and it could have been part of their season if they had just done their season next. But I also feel like of all the storylines that happened in this season, her whole storyline was like so random. It almost felt like
Yes.
I feel like the obviously Benedict and Sophie storyline is the main storyline, but then there was also, Hyacinth coming of age, and a lot of the storyline focuses on Francesca and her relationship with her husband, the Earl of Kilmartin, and Eloise still being a spinster. And now we have this new storyline that didn't occur in the books, at least not in the first 8 books, where, Violet is having, this new relationship for the first time after her husband died many, many years ago. And like, it almost feels like the Penelope story was just like one storyline too many.
Yes, I would
With
agree with that. Like, I didn't think the tension with the queen was really necessary. Like, I prefer the storyline between the queen and Danbury, Lady Danbury,
oh,
more
so sweet. Oh, you haven't finished it. It's
than,
really touching.
yeah. But I do prefer that one over the Penelope storyline of like everyone now knowing. I guess I maybe in my thought process when I'm watching this is that they're trying to find a way to put to bed the Lady Whistledown portion, which I don't
Mm.
know. And as I'm watching it, I was like, oh, they're trying to find a way to like wrap this up so they don't have to keep up this continuing storyline since they already revealed her and no, it wasn't maybe the best choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It just felt
but
very like, in comparison to how well they developed the other storylines this season, it felt very like half thought
yeah,
through and like just thrown in there.
yeah. The other reason I didn't like the third season was I felt like they hyped it up a lot. And then when I watched it, I was like, okay, I feel like this is a little lukewarm compared to the
Mm. I thought it was way more
promotion.
graphic. I honestly, last season, I thought I was watching porn and I like had to draw the
Oh,
blinds. I
really?
was
I
like, what
thought
is
it
going
was
on?
not nearly as spicy as they made it
Yeah,
seem.
no, it was nowhere near as spicy, which like maybe that's why I liked it more. I don't know. Like it was almost too
Mhm.
shocking last time. But we did get to
Oh, yeah.
see Benedict's butt. And for that, I am grateful. It was pretty great. But
Yeah.
does he, in those times, I remember you texting me being like, this man's for sure had syphilis.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Just
They
like
all did. They all
Victorian
had
England.
syphilis. Uh,
Or not Victorian, I guess it's Queen Charlotte. So, but yeah, that time they're going, if he was going that crazy and sleeping with so many partners, I was like, he totally had syphilis.
oh,
And then
100%.
one day he was gonna die because his brain was mush. And they'd be like, oh
Yeah,
my
I
God, what
wonder why
happened?
more of them didn't get neuros. So, for people who don't know about syphilis, here's a public health announcement. Syphilis has three main
Take penicillin.
stages. Late stage is stage 3, and it's called neurosyphilis. I didn't realize this
Mhm.
this book talk podcast was going to become a health lesson, but here we are. And neurosyphilis is bad and hard to reverse. And they didn't have penicillin back then. So,
Yeah.
but I'm like, it can't be possible that all of them got neurosyphilis.
No, but I mean, they probably all had syphilis. That's really my point.
Yeah,
I mean, they probably all had syphilis, all had chlamydia, all had gonorrhea,
they had
probably
every
had other
disease.
ones. Yeah. So there's probably a reason why so many people have cold sores, like 80% of the population. And I think we could date it back to then.
Date it back to Benedict Bridgerton. Thanks, Benedict.
Yes.
Uh, anyway, so on to our next segment, which
Yes.
is I mean, there is a lot going on in the book girly world or book talk world in general right now. And so I thought, we started a podcast. How could we not take advantage of the opportunity to talk about all these things? So I want to hear your thoughts about the Call Her Daddy podcast with Sarah J. Maas.
Okay. So I don't listen to podcasts and I won't listen to this one,
Have
but
you listened to our podcast?
I have actually still not completed an episode of our own
Dude,
podcast.
you're
I
betraying
trust you.
us.
I trust you with the editing. So,
Well, you're about to edit
well,
this
I'll
one,
have
so
to,
buck
yeah, I
up,
was gonna say I
girly.
will have to listen to it this time around. So I will listen to some podcasts, but I have seen enough. And this is like with Love is Blind and some like love shows, like reality TV shows. I won't watch the season, but I will get all of this like summaries online so I know what's going on.
Mhm.
My thoughts on it are exciting that the new book is coming out. I
Books,
think
plural.
books are coming out. I think it's kind of dumb that it's like four more books. I find
No, no, this
I
one book is
probably
4 books.
that's
four
what I'm trying to say. I
four
don't I find it
installments.
hard to believe. I don't know what the plot will be, but I find it hard to believe that it was necessary to have four parts for this one book.
Yeah, she
But
explained it.
I don't
I'm
know
not
who
I'm not
will.
sure I fully get it yet either.
Yeah. And I don't know. I personally don't think I'm going to continue. I really enjoyed Akatar when I read it, but after I like sat and have waited, I've kind of lost interest in it. I also really struggle to get into series that are unfinished. And this is true with like TV shows too. Like I almost would prefer to wait until it's completely done
Mm.
and then read it all. and be behind. Like I don't care about that because it's very hard for me to like wait and then remember. For example, with Stranger Things, with how long it took for the fifth season to come out, Blaine and I had to rewatch the entire series because I was like, I'm not going to start this without remembering what was going on. But then it becomes a lot of work when it comes with books, and so that's another reason why I tend to like lose interest in unfinished series. But, I think it's going to be fun. I think a lot of people will be excited and enjoy it. And it's a nice little way to keep going. I don't know. This also reminds me of like when you watch a TV show and they keep going and you're like, they probably should have stopped after season
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I think we didn't need a Nesta book.
You haven't
We
read the
didn't
Nesta book.
need. Yeah, and I did like it, but like when I think about it now, I was like, she kind of completed the series, the storyline in the 3 books. She didn't really need to add on these extra. Like, I feel like it would almost
But
make more
Elaine
sense to
hasn't
have them.
had her character arc. She's her
Yeah,
personality is currently limited to the color beige. Okay, like
yeah,
she is
and that's fair.
personalityless, personality proof.
But I almost would rather think of it as like, well, maybe this will be something that's done later on when we reflect on it of like main series, sub-series
Hmm.
type kind of concepts going on with it. Because I think that could be it. You could have it as like a sub series of this
Yeah,
main.
I mean, after the war with Highburn,
Yeah.
it's hard to like
And I
where do
gotta
you
be real,
go?
I can't even remember the conflict that was going on in A Court of Silver Flames,
Nesta was
aside
being
from
an
like the internal
absolute see you
conflict.
next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was one thing. My one takeaway I had from the one of the many takeaways that I had from the podcast was I felt bad how much I disliked Nesta's book and how I much I she's literally
You
like
did really
Satan's
dislike it.
apprentice. Like I do not like her as a character.
Hmm.
And I think that the reason for me, what I boiled it down to, is that I do not handle adversity the way that she handles adversity. I do not
Yeah.
handle my emotions and my hard times the way that she does. And I recognize that no two people are the same and that we all handle things differently. But I do not come at things from a like burn down the house, burn everything, all my relationships, like hate everyone, isolate from everyone. Like that is not how I behave in hard times. And so I had a really really difficult time understanding Nesta's perspective and why she was acting like a total brat. Like no offense, I thought she acted like a
Yes.
total brat. But then SJM talked about on the podcast like where she had a really hard time with her mental health back in 2019, 2020,
Hmm.
just with facing all of the pressures of this monstrosity, the mass verse that she created, and
Hmm.
the high expectations and pressure and deadlines making her feel like less than human. And a lot of her writing Nesta had to do with like how she went through that. And so now I feel
Yeah.
bad that I didn't like Nesta, but it's like I guess SJM and I have very different ways of handling depression.
And I remember you like saying that, and I was slightly surprised. Like I do get like she wasn't written in a way that was like likable in a lot of ways. But I do feel like she was much more of a real character, like a real example of how people experience trauma and how people react to like adversity and things like that than what I felt Feyre was like.
Yeah. Yeah, we all
Like she was
handle
a little
trauma
bit
differently.
more, yeah, and I think Feyre was more in like the realm of like fantasy and fairy tale, like how you see the main character, they go through like horrible things, but and she did have like some trauma stuff going on, but it was a little bit more of the this guy saves me kind of concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Lame.
do feel like I liked Nesta finding like the group of women that she got along with and she like learned to fight and she kind of saved herself. So I did
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that perspective a lot more
Yeah, for
while
sure.
also having the person that she falls in love with. So I did like that a little bit more.
And she talks about that her own friends that she, credits with helping save her life essentially, um, were a huge part of her story, and her ability to kind of get through her really hard times. Um,
All right, I am doing a refill and there's a lot more wine than I expected. So
bottle, throw it back. Um, One other thing that I thought was really interesting was the conversation that there's a little bit of tea. So,
hmm,
you know how originally Akatar was supposed to be adapted into a TV series on Hulu, and Hulu optioned it, and like she sold the rights to the TV series to
no,
Hulu, and for multiple years it was supposed to be in production, and it was supposed to come out
no,
in 2024.
I did not know this.
Well, she alluded on the podcast to a multi-year fight. She had to like fight tooth and nail to get her intellectual property and like her rights back from Hulu for the books. And she's basically said she's not willing to give it away again until she has certain set of
Yeah.
conditions that have to be met. Because, and honestly, I think I said that to you at the time because I was like live texting you while I was watching this to like
Yeah.
get my thoughts down on in writing. But I honestly like respect her for that she brought up that, Akatar is her legacy, that like people are going to
Yes.
experience these books and that is her writing, but the things that are done after and that are there like long after she is gone someday, that's her legacy. And what, how people think of her books is her legacy. And so one form of that is it being adapted into film. And
Yeah.
so she's, after the experience with Hulu, going to be, I guess, way pickier, which I really respect, honestly, because we've seen, with the example of Divergent, where that did not happen and
Hmm.
how disappointing that was. And I think that authors can get all over, a lot of the time. And so
Yeah.
I don't blame her for being cautious, is what I'll say.
Yeah. I completely agree with that because there's I don't know if you ever watched My Sister's Keeper,
Yep.
or have you watched it? Did you
And
read the
I read the
book?
books, but I read the book, but I read that book like when I was 15 or something, like a long time ago.
Well, I read that book. I was pretty young when I read it, and then after I read it, the movie came out. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember like what year that was. But I remember reading it and then watching the movie and just seeing how they just completely changed the ending. Because that was like the first book that ever made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, spoilers alert, if you don't want to hear the ending of the book and movie, skip this
Skip like
part.
30 seconds of the podcast. Ready, go.
Or probably I would say a minute. But yeah, like having Anna die in a car crash, then being able to save Kate, to then just be like, oh no, Kate died from cancer. The
Mm-hmm.
entire like Jodie Picoult does this stuff which is gut wrenching, like makes you think and be like, oh my God, like that was such a huge twist after all of this stuff that went on with the court case and whatnot, and you find out the reason why they're doing the court, doing the suing for her emancipation. Um, that it was all Kate's idea and everything like that, to her in the end still being her sister's keeper. Like that was the entire point.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, no, let's not do that.
Bye.
That made me
Yeah.
sad.
I don't understand. It just totally changes the story to me.
Hmm.
And I don't
Yeah.
understand why, like what they felt was better about the other storyline than the original storyline.
I agree because I think it also really helped with the epilogue since that's the only time you read anything in Kate's perspective. Um, but it also showed the dynamic of like, because a big theme there is them talking about, is Anna like truly loved by her parents because she was just kind of born out of hope that she'll save her sister? Like, what's that ethical? But then you do see the end of like the grief that the mom feels. for the loss of her daughter that you don't really get to see when you're just talking or when you just have the movie ending.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, so those are kind of some of my thoughts on the Call Her Daddy episode. I really enjoyed watching it. I think I told you during that I thought it was well done. I really enjoyed, I think
yeah,
it was a good mix of talking about the books, but also learning more about the author, like learning more about
yeah,
SJM and her life and kind of, her beginnings in New York and how she felt like she didn't really fit in and how she, went into creative writing program in her college. And I don't know, I just think I enjoyed getting to know her a little bit better as a person as well from the podcast. So it was
yeah.
cool. And,
I get
October
that.
27th, we're going to have a lot to talk about. I guess if you're not reading it, I'm going to have to represent us and do the read.
I mean, I don't know. That's one of those things that it's like right now I don't really have interest. I like texted you. I'm
Mm.
kind of more focused on trying to do like some standalones. Like there's a couple series that I want to read, which I know we've discussed doing the buddy read of Red Rising. And I would also like to do a buddy read of the My Brilliant Friends, at least the first book by Elena Ferrante, because I could read it in Italian and you can read it in English. And I think that'd
Mm-hmm.
be kind of a fun comparison
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah, because we
see
talked
how
about
you like it in the translation versus
is
me.
it originally in English or originally in
So it's
Italian?
originally in Italian and
Oh,
then it's
okay.
translated to English. So context, my friends who told me about it, they read the English version and they loved it. They
Mm,
also speak Italian too.
mm,
I read the first book and I want to reread it when I was in Italian class in Italian. And then I got the translation for my mom, and she did not like it.
ooh, okay. So
So I'm kind of,
jury's out on
I
if I
want to
like it.
see. Yeah, yeah, I want to see. And I might see if she still has the copy because I could just send it to you. But if not,
Okay, that'd be great.
yeah. But anyway,
Okay. So I have to ask, since we were already, talking about some of the other current news in the book world, kind of
yes,
book, kind of related, have you heard about Wuthering Heights?
I have heard about Wuthering Heights. My friend was telling me how she was trying to read it before the movie came out. Now I don't even know if she's gonna watch the movie because she's very like source material, like you
Oh
should
no.
be like direct. Um, I have never read Wuthering Heights, and I had heard some negative reviews about how it was not like the source material at all. Um, but then I also heard a lot of people that really enjoyed it, and they very much were like, you need to take it in the context of it being its own thing, and then you could read Wuthering Heights with its own perspective.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it. I have like really no knowledge on the story. I did know the name Heathcliff though. That's like I've read other books where they're like, I'm reading Wuthering Heights.
Oh, yep. Heathcliff's in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did not read the book, but I did see the movie last weekend with my friends. And let me tell you, as a warning to the girlies, do not go see Wuthering Heights while ovulating and also on fertility medicine because if you do, you might end up like me, where I was sobbing so hard at the end of the movie that I started dry heaving from crying so hard. Okay. And then I remember thinking while sobbing, like, why am I crying so much? Because the relationship between Kathy and Heathcliff is so, so toxic.
Oh,
I was like, obviously, I'm not like aspiring to have this like super toxic relationship. Like, of course not.
yeah.
Nothing about that is appealing to me, but it was just like I think honestly, I was just so caught up in how beautiful the scenery, the cinematography, and the costumes and the acting, and they started showing them when they were kids, and the child actors were incredible, and then just this, it just it was definitely just the hormones, but like I was so unwell. I I assumed that everyone else was unwell. And I went to this movie theater where they have individual pods. It's one of those like movie and dinner type things. And so
Yeah,
they
I know what you're
got
talking
it's
about.
pod style. So it's like two people per pod. And it's just a bunch of pods. And then waiters come around when you press the button that you want to like order, whatever. And so I went with two other friends. And so I was, we had one odd person out. And so I was like, whatever, I'll go sit in this other pod. And I didn't realize there was going to be another person in my pod. And so I quickly made friends with this 50 something year old woman named Liz. So shout out Liz, my bestie in Wuthering Heights. And like right away, Liz was like, "Do you want to share the popcorn?" I was like, "Hell yeah,
Oh,
Liz,
that's
I want to share the
cute.
popcorn." And so Liz and I were like sharing popcorn, and like I can't remember. There was one really raunchy scene, and I was like, "Oh my God, Liz." And she was like, "Oh my God, Nicole." It was so funny. And then at the end, we were both sobbing, sharing tissue,
Oh,
not sharing the same tissue. Let me try that again. We shared a box of
we had a
tissues.
handkerchief that we were
We
passing
were
betwixt
passing our snot back
ourselves.
and forth. No, but Liz saw me dry heaving, crying. So shout out Liz. And then afterwards, so when the credits were rolling, I was uncontrollably crying. And I like look over the pod to see, I'm like, surely my friends are also sobbing. And they're just like packing up their stuff, ready to go, no, like fully dry-eyed. And I'm like, how are you okay? And they're like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, what was wrong with me is that shouldn't go see that movie
Hormonal
when you're
problems.
hormonal. Um, and then Liz checked on me afterward. What a sweet soul. I hope Liz is doing well.
Yeah, that's really nice.
But Liz and I had a great time. But I would totally see it again. I'm obsessed with the soundtrack. Charlie XCX did an amazing job. Chains of Love, I've played at least 7 times a day. And I just turn up the volume all the way and I'm just like jamming out in my car, like screaming the song. So I think there might be something wrong with me. But um I everything about I mean Jacob Elordi, like I
Oh
don't I
yeah.
get it.
I mean,
No
I do
notes.
I will say like to watch the movie just for Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, I
Yes.
do understand that. Like
Yes.
two very beautiful people.
And great they both did excellent jobs at their characters. They really did.
Yeah.
So I think if you take it as the artistic piece that it is by itself, you'll have a great time and you might sob until you dry heave. If you read the book and you're expecting that, don't go see the movie. I am very excited that our next segment is going to be with my friend Rabia from medical school. I think that she will have a lot to shed light on about romance novels because she has read so many of them, and I'm excited to see what she thinks. So, what do you think? Should we bring her on?
A round of applause.
Okay, so we're so excited to have our bestie Rabia here on the podcast today. As a little introduction, Rabia is my closest friend from medical school because I told you guys I did medical school, and she is currently training as a internal medicine resident. And I'm really excited to hear her thoughts on last episode because Rabia is like, in my mind, the ultimate romance genre expert. She reads an obscene, like impressive amount of not only just books per year, but also romance and knows like everything. Like almost every romance book I've read, she either recommended it to me, got it for me for my birthday, or she's read it. So, really excited to have her on. Rabia, welcome to No Fictional Friends podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. So excited to be here and
Yes.
appreciate the kind words from Nicole. Yeah, I love reading romance. I feel like probably I want to say at the beginning of medical school is kind of when I picked up reading seriously again. I used to always kind of be obsessed with books, but I think, in college I fell off a little bit. And then we started med school during COVID, and so there wasn't really a whole lot else to do. And so I would just read a lot. Like I remember when I'd be studying for my exams, I'd usually always have a book that I was reading at the time, and I'd be like, okay, like I'm gonna study these two lectures, and then I can go read my book for like 20 minutes. So that was kind of like my reward. So yeah, love romance. And I know, especially, you guys were talking about how sometimes tropey and cliche romance can be. And, as a big fan, I think I do agree with that. There are books out there where I'm like, cringe, like, how did somebody actually write this? Like, what am I reading? So I feel like a lot of it is just finding authors that you click with. Not every author is for every person. And I know Nicole was talking about Abby Jimenez last time, and I can't say that that's an author that really does it for me, which maybe is
What?
controversial. Yeah.
Fair.
Get out.
um,
Exit the chat immediately.
she's like, actually, you can go ahead and log on.
Never mind. We don't want you on the podcast.
But it just kind of goes to show that there's lots of different authors out there for people with different tastes. And if there's a genre that you're like, okay, maybe this isn't for me, I think I would say you probably just haven't tried enough authors yet, or you haven't found that one or two author that is writing the kind of book within that genre that you want. Mm-hmm. And so I think volume and having that increased sample size is really important.
You sure do have that volume increased sample size. I thought was.
Okay, I have a question for you, Rabiah. So
Yeah.
when you think about romance, are you going after like your kind of classic boy meets girl, or the cozy bookshop, you've got mail type vibe? Or are you more of going in the kind of crazy direction where it's like the monster love story?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, that definitely is not me. I feel like I really like books that just make me think about a topic or a way of life or something in a different way. So books that can maybe kind of change your understanding of something. I think romance is something that'll initially attract me to a book, or learning about the characters, or like, this sounds interesting. But then what actually keeps you reading isn't the romance or the characters, although that might be really good. I think sometimes it's just the setting. Like, I was telling Nicole, I finished this book by Lila Sage not too long ago. It's called Soul Searching, and it was kind of like paranormal vibes and small town, and it was like set out west, which isn't something that I'm like super familiar with. I don't know a lot about that kind of stuff. And so it was just cool to like be fully immersed in that world, even though it was the romance that initially hooked me. I think it was just really cool how you can tell how great an author is at creating that sort of descriptive scene and imagery that really pulls you in, and then being like, oh, like maybe I want to visit this place someday.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to back up. Why don't you like Abby Jimenez?
I think, and I think there's other people that agree with me about this too, but it just can come across very like sob story, I think, and just like very like emotionally heavy, which I know that you were saying that that's kind of why you like those books. And I think there is a time and place for me personally when I want to read those books, but especially a lot of times, like you guys were talking about, romance is an escape. And so that escape for me, I don't want it to be like super emotionally charged all the time. And I feel like with Abby Jimenez, that's kind of been the rep that she gets. And so although, I'm sure she's a great author and she is great at world building characterization, I think for me it's really the heaviness that kind of draws me away from her.
Okay. Interesting. So I guess I'm a little confused, if you could clarify. So you were saying that like the things that you love about romance are, you first start by really enjoying and getting invested in the characters and the romance, but the romance isn't what makes you stay. But then on the other side of the coin, and then that it's, the more the story and like learning things that you didn't know. Right. But then on the other hand, it's, you don't want the emotional, or you don't like as much the emotional in aspect that like Abby brings. So like what is it then that
are you thinking more like darker emotion, or
dark? I think darker emotions is something that I'm not always in the right headspace for. And I feel like it's okay sometimes, but I feel like Abby Jimenez, the theme that I've seen, and I haven't read a lot of the most recent stuff, but the theme that I have kind of seen was that she tends to kind of have those sorts of recurring themes. And so I also tend not to read a lot of books by the same author. There are a couple authors that I really love, but I think the novelty of discovering someone that I hadn't read their work before, that's also part of it. Because I like being surprised. I like being blown away and swept off my feet. Like, oh my gosh, this person is amazing. And I feel like with any author, there's a certain style that they have, and it can get kind of predictable as well. So sometimes for me, that also looks like taking a break from an author and then coming back several books later.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, Rabia, I have a game. I am calling it Rapid Fire Romance with Rabia.
Oh gosh, very alliterative.
Yeah, I know, right? That was the whole goal. Rapid Fire Romance Reader Confessions. That was my other name idea, but I thought it was funnier to have more alliteration. Anyway, okay. So what I am going to do is I am going to give you a topic, and you have to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind, like instant answer.
Okay.
Okay,
like what book related? I'll try to make it as book related as possible.
Well, all of the prompts are book related because
it'll be very easy for you to make it book related.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they would just be like romance related things.
Oh.
Romance. Name
book
one.
related, and then what's your biggest trauma?
Actually, I think Nicole knows
Why?
this.
Why are we here?
Why? What is the meaning of life? Who has hurt you? Okay, anyway. Okay. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ready, go. Favorite trope?
Enemies to lovers.
Ooh, okay. Most overrated trope?
He hates everyone except her.
Like Grumpy Sunshine?
Yes, because I know you guys were talking about that last
episode. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Most underrated trope?
I want to say, I don't know, just like friends to lovers, I guess. Not that it's like very underrated, but I think it could be more highly rated.
Mm-hmm.
Spiciest book you've read?
I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those people that always like when I try to think back to books I read, I'm like, I can't think of anything. I don't know. I just throw out a couple titles and I'll say if I've read them.
Well, A Court of Mist and Fury, chapter 55.
Yes. I mean, sure.
We'll go with that one.
Comfort romance book.
Oh, I really like, I don't know if you guys know this author, B.K. Borison. She has a book called Love Light Farms, and it's just set in like it's kind of like Hallmark vibes, except it's very well written. And so just like, cozy, like very like nice, like familiar sort of setting, and just a very like wholesome romance.
Love that. Yeah, I think you've told me about that author before. Okay. Book boyfriend you'd marry.
Gosh, I can't see. This is my problem where I'm like, I can't think of anybody. I don't know, probably Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And you'd be rich.
Yes.
Most importantly, you'd be
a year or whatever he's getting.
All right, last one. Trope you'd never read.
Oh, incest.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what? There are books with that?
Yes.
I mean, like there's Game of Thrones.
There's books with everything, Nicole.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Oh, you're right. Game of Thrones.
One, speaking of that, it's like a woman apparently sleeps with both her step uncle and step cousin.
Oh my god!
So I was like, that's kind of crazy. I don't know.
How does that
happen?
That's crazy. Opens it up.
That's crazy. Immediately reads the whole book front to back. Man. Wow, incest. That's a choice to write about for sure.
There's an entire play. It's called Oedipus, guys.
I did read Oedipus. That was
I read Oedipus.
I'm like, how does someone mistake their mother, or not?
Well,
he didn't mistake.
He didn't know
his mother.
it was
He
his
just,
mother.
Married her
because he didn't know.
Yeah, because his dad sent him
mother.
off to die on the mountaintop because his dad had got the prophecy that he was going to kill his dad, which he ended up doing anyway. and then
Yeah.
married his mom and effed his mom and had kids with her.
Well, so while
But he
we're on
didn't
this
know. This
topic,
was ancient
um,
Greece.
Yeah.
heated rivalry. Obviously, everybody's obsessed with it, and Francois Arnaud. I feel like everyone is kind of just now discovering him, and he's been acting for a while. And
He
people
plays
that don't
Scott
recognize
for anyone who
Scott,
doesn't
yes,
know
that's
the
what I was going to say,
actors.
Scott Hunter. But I mean, he's been acting for a while, and he was on this show. I didn't really watch the show, but it was called The Borgias. I don't know exactly how old it is now, but Francois has a storyline in it. He plays Cesare Borgia, kind of the son of like I think the main like guy, and then he has a plotline with his sister, and that's like the romance that's in the show. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, he sells it really well, obviously, because they're not actually related, but I mean, it does kind of make you think like
Was
what's
like
going
Jamie
on.
and Cersei all through Game of
Yes,
Thrones.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That was just trauma bonding.
and that's the thing, is like, not that I'm saying I'm gonna read incest stuff, but I
So he's
like
like, actually, I'm changing my
Sophie's like, hear me
contextually,
out.
interests.
like historically with the context, like I do understand why that is a theme
Mhm,
or relationships that you see in books. Because like
mhm.
when you think of like the Habsburgs and particularly royals, there is a lot of like marrying your cousin, marrying your uncle stuff going on. So I do like understand if you're going to try and, especially if you're doing like anything historical fiction, why that might exist
Yeah,
in the
I think
realm in which
historical for
what
sure,
you're
but
doing.
maybe the modern day version of it, I think, is like the stepbrother like romances. I feel like those
Yeah.
on a certain side of book talk are very like popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it also makes me think of like the people that what is it? Like you become step siblings. Like you fall
Yeah.
in love and then your parents get married.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're step
Which
siblings.
that I mean, it's kind of like well, so that actually brings me back to Gossip Girl because like Dan and Serena, like I mean, they were started out like totally like not knowing about their parents' history, and eventually their parents get married. And there is a point in the show where they kind of struggle with like, okay, like we just got back together and we're dating, but our like parents are married, and so it's just kind of this like
Yeah.
weird like territory that
As
they've
long
all
as it's not genetic.
yeah.
That introduces a different set of problems into the
I give a
mix.
little more of a pass if it's not genetic. So I have one more game.
Okay.
It's called Guess the Romance Plot.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is read real romance plot summaries.
Mm-hmm.
Or well, I'm going to read romance plot summaries that sound ridiculous, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to guess if it's a real book or a fake plot.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
A woman signs up for a dating service and accidentally gets matched with 7 alien warriors who think that she's their fated mate.
I think that's probably real.
That is real. It's called Chosen by Evangeline Anderson. All right. A woman falls in love with a man who is secretly a sentient magical door that can turn into a human.
I mean, I feel like somebody is probably going to write that if it hasn't already been written yet. I want to say real just because of how ridiculous it sounds.
Yes. It's called Unhinged by Vera Valentine.
I see, yeah, like there's some very dark corners of,
They're very dark corners of
of
romance.
Yeah.
Dark, unhinged corners. Okay. A dragon shapeshifter runs a dating service for other dragons, but accidentally matches himself with a human who thinks he's just a weirdly wealthy tech CEO.
Um, well, I'm gonna say not real, but there's obviously lots of dragon shifter romances out there, and I'm sure somebody will probably write something similar to this in the future. But I'd say fake.
That is fake. Speaking of
Well,
fake, a
it might be fake.
maybe now they're gonna write it.
Yeah.
A fake psychic hired to cleanse a haunted goat farm owned by a skeptic who she falls in love with while saving the farm from financial ruin and a centuries old curse.
So I actually read this and I gave it to Nicole. So I know 100% that this is real.
That's what made me think of this entire game. I was like, Rabiah had me read a romance book about a haunted goat farm.
But it was actually so like well done.
It was cute.
And I feel like especially towards the end with like the ghost and stuff, it was honestly kind of emotional.
It was, yeah, I did cry. I did
Oh,
cry. So I was like,
Oh,
all right, I got to give it at least 4 stars for making me cry.
yeah.
Like, why am I crying at a ghost? I was
Yeah,
probably
it's
on
so
my
good.
period, to
Sophie,
be honest.
I know you don't really read romance like that, but I think you should check that one out.
what is it called? I can
Happy
see it. I don't know
Medium
why
by
I'm not.
Sarah
Happy
Adler.
Medium. Okay. I like if I'm gonna read romance, I honestly do want to do some of the stuff that's a little bit more like fucked up. Like I'm intrigued by this new book that came out called Blob that or it might not be new, but it's about a woman that like has a breakup and then finds a like amorphous blob that's alive on the street and then takes it home to make it a pet and then she realizes that she can morph it into her dream guy. And I was
Oh,
like,
okay. That's kind of cool.
pretty
I
good.
thought
I
I
didn't
thought you were
even
gonna
Black
say it's just
Mirror.
about her falling in love with like the amorphous blob. And I was like, I don't know.
It's like what was that one movie where the guy fell in love with the computer or the AI system?
Oh, her.
her.
Or
Yeah. That's happening though now. It's we all
Oh,
laughed at it. Now
sure.
it's happening.
It is for sure. Okay, last one. A woman fake dates a werewolf pack leader to make her ex jealous, but the pack believes fake relationships are legally binding mating contracts.
That's Twilight.
probably real. It sounds pretty real to me.
That is real. It's called The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson.
Actually, I
Okay,
think
yeah,
that
I've definitely heard
is
of that one. I didn't
Twilight
realize that
New
was the plot.
Moon.
You think that's New Moon?
I'm pretty sure that's the plot of New Moon.
He imprinted.
Wait, so did I technically got him all right.
I think you
Yeah.
did. Well,
All right, I'll let you guys
that's all,
finish
folks.
up.
In the
Okay.
words of Sophie from last week, that was fun. Oh man, I
I thought
laughed
you were
out
gonna
loud
go, I love
listening.
you. Thanks.
What? When did you say that?
You said love you, and I
I
said
know. Yeah,
thanks.
I said love you, Sophie, and you're like, yeah. You didn't even say thanks. You didn't acknowledge it. All you said was, yeah. And that's
And
our
that's me.
friendship for you. Anyway, so that was fun. I'm really glad that Rabiah was able to join us. I always have so much fun talking to her about books. I think she has some
Yeah.
great insights, and we had some interesting conversations about incest. So wasn't up for naught. But Sophie, what is next in the works for No Fictional Podcast?
Yeah. I do know that we were hoping to get to talking a little bit more about some of the book to film adaptations, but since we had such a good conversation with Rabia, we've decided to push that and do a little part two for this episode. Then hopefully after that we can finally do that first buddy read with Red Rising.
Whoop, whoop, Buddy Reed. I'm
Thanks
excited.
to everyone that stuck it all the way through. I'm assuming this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode.
Just start cutting.
Um,
Just start cutting.
yeah, just start cutting. And catch you next time.
Catch you next time, friends. Bye.
Bye.